Yo, what's going on, guys? Today I'm going to be doing my Week 14 lineup review and recap, looking at some of my Week 14 lineups on DraftKings and some of the lineups that I played on Yahoo. We'll start off with DraftKings, then we'll switch over to Yahoo, talk about my 20 max lineups, my single entry 3 max lineups. I did play 150 as well. Probably won't go through those just because there's a lot of lineups, so it's going to be hard to go through them, but we'll mostly talk about the players that I was on that did well for me, the players that maybe disappointed for me. Do the same on my Yahoo lineups, and then at the end we will take a look at the showdown slate for Monday Night Football between the Vikings and the Seahawks. Should be a good game, should be a fun showdown slate. But we'll start off with the lineups on DraftKings. It was a solid week on DK. I didn't pull out a great profit, but I did profit about 15-20%, had about a plus 15-20% ROI. I did hit on some good plays this week. I also definitely missed on some plays. I didn't have any Amari Cooper, which was something that really burned me. I think him and T.Y. Hilton were around the same price range, and I just had T.Y. projected for a lot higher. Thought T.Y. was a better play, so that didn't get me on a ton of Amari Cooper. Obviously, Amari Cooper going off for 52 DraftKings points. It's going to be hard to win any sort of tournament without Amari Cooper. But I still did have some lineups that cashed pretty nicely, so we'll start off with these top 20. These are my 20 max lineups. At quarterback this week, where I could get Mahomes, I played Mahomes, but I mostly had a lot of Andrew Luck and a lot of Deshaun Watson. I just really like that game in general. When we get to receiver, we'll talk about Hopkins and T.Y. Hilton. Those were two of my higher owned receivers. But as you can see, when we get down here, a lot of these 20 max lineups were Watson and Andrew Luck. Those were the two quarterbacks I landed on the most. And then I did have some Patrick Mahomes. I did have a little bit of Big Ben, a little bit of Jameis Winston. Rodgers, I think, popped in maybe like one or two lineups. Didn't have a ton of Aaron Rodgers. It was mostly Mahomes, Andrew Luck, Deshaun Watson, and a little bit of Big Ben. And that was pretty good quarterback core. I know some of the cheaper quarterbacks did well, like Dak was one of the higher scoring quarterbacks. He was really low owned. Didn't expect Dak to really be a good play, but is what it is. Nick Mullins, I think, did okay, and he was pretty cheap. Really, I don't think any quarterbacks smashed this week. I think all of them scored around the same amount. I think Tom Brady finally had a good game and he did well, but Andrew Luck was a really good play with 27 points. I think he was 5,900. He was one of the better quarterback options that did well. Did have a decent amount of luck. But now moving on to running back. Obviously, I had a lot of exposure to the cheap value running backs we had this week with Jalen Samuels and Jeff Wilson. I didn't want to go too crazy on these guys. They were projected very highly. Without bumping them down, I was pretty much getting them in every lineup, and I knew that I did not want Samuels and Wilson in every lineup just because there were some question marks with both guys. I didn't think both guys were just going to have these smash games. I thought both guys were definitely necessary, especially if you're playing a lot of lineups. I did not want to just fully fade them. I think I went 60% Wilson, 50% Samuels, and I was okay with that. That wasn't a crazy amount. I did nerf them a lot. They were, like I said, popping up in almost every lineup. And I did nerf them a bit. I like Wilson a little bit more or later on in the week just because I felt like his workload was going to be a little bit safer. Once we got the news that Samuels and Ridley were going to sort of split carries, that kind of got me off of Samuels a little bit. I did like him a lot going into the week because I felt like he was just going to get the majority of the work. But then once we got the news that Ridley was going to be involved, I did bump Samuels down a bit, but I still had a lot of exposure to both guys. They were pretty good values. Samuels was definitely a good value, 16 points with his very cheap price. Jeff Wilson was okay, really wasn't great. You didn't need Jeff Wilson this week. You really didn't need Samuels either. Both guys weren't you had to have them to win. But they did allow you to do a lot. They allowed you to pay up for some of the studs like T.Y. who went off. Amari Cooper was kind of expensive, so they allowed you to pay up for him. And even some of the more expensive tight ends went off this week. So even though the two cheap running backs didn't go crazy, they were still decent plays at their price tags. Had a lot of them, and where I could pay up, I went mostly McCaffrey, Zeke, and Saquon Barkley. Those were the three expensive running backs I played. I didn't have much Kamara, just felt like the other top three guys were the best plays. There is a Kamara lineup here, but it's mostly Barkley, McCaffrey, and Zeke that I had in most of my running back slots where I could pay up. A lot of lineups had one of the expensive running backs, whether it was Barkley, McCaffrey, Zeke, and then the two values, Wilson, Samuels. Majority of my lineups sort of went around that core, which was kind of chalky. A lot of people did that as well, but I did get a little different when it came to my value receivers, my expensive receivers. I didn't go to where everybody went when it comes to those guys. That was pretty much it for running back. I did have a few lineups with like Phillip Lindsay, a few lineups with I think Nick Chubb, but mostly the guys I talked about I played in a majority of my lineups. But now moving on to receiver, I did have some value plays I liked here. So once we got the news that Odell was out, I did get on a lot of Sterling Shepard. I was very surprised at Sterling Shepard's ownership. I think he was 4,400. I was expecting him to be pretty popular. And I think in most contests he was only like 12-13% owned. I had a lot of him compared to the field, which was probably a mistake. He only had 9.7 DK points. He could have definitely had a better game, but the Giants just got such a big lead that they really didn't have to throw the ball. They wound up crushing the Redskins like 41-16 or something. So Shepard still did get like 2 catches, and he did find the end zone, but it wasn't a great game. I did like Shepard a lot as a value play. He wound up being a lot better than the other value play I liked, which was Chris Godwin. I did play a lot of Chris Godwin. Him and Sterling Shepard were definitely my 2 favorite value plays. Did have some Golden Tate as well. Pretty much all the value receivers I liked didn't do that great. Like this lineup right here had all the value receivers I was on, Godwin, Shepard, and Tate. It was not a great lineup. Still did have some of the expensive guys that did well. Gronk was pretty good this week. Jared Cook was pretty good. Christian McCaffrey was good. But the value receivers kind of missed badly on this week, especially Godwin and Golden Tate. Sterling Shepard was not that bad. But expensive receivers where I could pay up, it was mostly DeAndre Hopkins and Keenan Allen and T.Y. Hilton, if you consider him expensive. A lot of T.Y. Hilton this week. Love the spot for him. In the Dome, just loved that game. I thought it was going to be another shootout like it was in like week 3 or 4 when these teams played. T.Y. went off earlier this year against the Texans. Had another monster game. I think he had like 9 catches for almost 200 yards. Just a monster game from T.Y. He did catch like a 60-yard bomb and then fell or got tackled at like the 2-yard line, which was pretty tilting. Almost had a touchdown. But still just a monster game from Hilton. Had him in a ton of lineups. Had a lot of DeAndre Hopkins, who wasn't great at 13.6 DK points. He was okay, but not great. Obviously, like Julio, Devontae Adams were all better plays, but didn't play them much. Just mostly played Hopkins. Did have some Keenan Allen as well. He had 18.8 DK points. I think he was only 73 or 7,400. He was definitely one of the more popular, expensive receivers because he felt a little bit underpriced. But that's mainly where I went at receiver. I did have a few lineups with like Julio and maybe a few with some of the other receivers, but mostly stuck to the core of like Keenan Allen, T.Y., the guys I talked about. But now moving on to tight end. This is where I actually did pretty well this week. Hit on mostly all the good tight ends. Mostly played Ebron, Kelsey, Kittle, and Jared Cook. I had like a little bit of Jimmy Graham, a little bit of Gronk, but it was mostly the top 4 guys that I played. With the value running backs, kind of allowed you to pay up at tight end, which actually kind of went well this week. A lot of the expensive tight ends did well, especially George Kittle. I know he had a monster game. He had like 200 yards at halftime. Finished with 37 DraftKings points. Kelsey was pretty good with his 20.7. Jared Cook had 21. Gronk had 27. Ebron was pretty good with his 16.5. Didn't really go cheap at tight end this week. That's something I've been doing a lot last few weeks, and it really hasn't worked out. Decided to mostly pay up at this position, and actually did well for me. Did have a few lineups with Ertz, but not a ton. Mostly played the top 4 guys that I mentioned: Ebron, Cook, Gronk, Travis Kelsey, George Kittle. Those were the guys I landed on the most at tight end. And then defense, actually hit on some pretty good defenses this week. Had a lot of the Giants, the Jets, who both scored double digits. Jets had 11 points. Giants had 18 points. The Lions as well, Lions and Cardinals. I thought both defenses were in play in that game. Just 2 really bad offenses. 2 offenses that haven't been doing well. So felt like that game was going to be really low scoring, and it was. Cardinals defense was pretty solid with 7 points. The Lions defense was really good with 18 points. But mostly like the Jets, Giants, Cardinals, Lions, those were the defenses I played in most of my lineups. So yeah, that's it for my 20 max lineups. I did have 3 lineups that I hand built this week. The ones with 4 entries here. This lineup was okay. Just managed to squeak into the cash. This one was a luck to T.Y. stack with DeAndre Hopkins, Chris Godwin, Barkley, Samuels, Ebron, Shepard, Cardinals D. This was one of the few lineups where I didn't play 3 running backs. Decided to go with the 2 value receivers, the stud receivers I liked, then Barkley, and then the value running back in Samuels. That lineup just squeaked into the cash. Other two lineups I hand-built in 3-max were not great. This one was Watson to Hopkins, which was not that great of a stack. It was okay, but not great. Had McCaffrey, Wilson, Godwin, Shepard, Ingram, Keenan Allen, and Patriots D. Just 117, not a great lineup. Then this one, Deshaun Watson to Hopkins again, with Godwin, Phillip Lindsay, Jeff Wilson, Sterling Shepard, Ebron, Zeke, and Giants D. I don't want to scroll through all my 150 because it's just a lot of lineups, kind of hard to go through, but you can kind of see in my 150, mostly played the same guys I talked about at each position. So I think that's it for DraftKings lineups. Now we'll go over some of my Yahoo lineups. I do want to talk about Yahoo. I know I talk about them pretty much every week, but I want to talk about this tournament they're running next Sunday, December the 16th, next week's main slate. They're going to be doing a $1 million baller, $1 million prize pool, 100K to first. This thing's going to overlay like crazy. It's already going to overlay 250K. If you can do math, as you can see, Yahoo's capping this thing at 37,500 entries. If you do that, 37,500 times the entry fee, which is $20, that comes out to 750K, and Yahoo's giving away $1 million. So they're already giving away over 250K in overlay, and I would be very surprised if this contest fills. So it's probably going to get 25,000 entries. I highly suggest you guys get in this contest. If you haven't signed up for Yahoo yet, my referral link is down in the description if you want to sign up. I'm going to have 10 lineups in there. It's a 10 entry max contest. I'll be sure to put 10 lineups in there. And this is some crazy money that you can win. It's not like some of their other contests don't have like crazy high prize pools, but this lineup with this contest with 100K to first, you got a legit shot at winning this. I'd be surprised if this thing gets more than 20,000 entries. It's going to overlay like crazy. It's probably going to pay out like 40-45%, where if it was to fill, it'd only pay out like 30%. So get in this thing, get 10 lineups in there if you can. It's $200 to enter if you enter 10 lineups. If you just want to play like one lineup, it's just $20. Highly suggest you guys get over there. If you play like $200 a week, like on DraftKings, I'd suggest you move your action over to Yahoo for this week. Get in this tournament. It's going to overlay. You're going to want to get some lineups in there. Hopefully I'll see you guys at the top along with some of my lineups, because I know I'm for sure going to be in there. My 10 lineups are going to be in there. But yeah, let's look at my Yahoo lineup. So I think I cashed 5 out of 10. Was a decent week on Yahoo. Had some lineups do pretty well. This one placed 230th out of 8,170. 159 points. Had a luck to TY stack with Barkley, Wilson, Shepard, Keenan Allen, Kelsey, Samuels, and Giants D. A lot of the same core that I play on DraftKings had on Yahoo as well. I was also surprised that Sterling Shepard was low owned on Yahoo as well. He was very cheap, just like $15, which was pretty cheap, close to the minimum price. Minimum price on Yahoo is $10 for a receiver, and Shepard was only $15. He was only 15% owned as well, so wasn't a crazy popular play. I think I played him in like every lineup. Really like the spot for Sterling Shepard, and I really like the price as well. And now moving on to the next one, finished just shy of that one. I think this one finished literally right behind the other lineup. But this lineup was a Watson to Hopkins stack with McCaffrey, Wilson, Shepard, T.Y., Kittle, Samuels, and Giants D. This lineup was also did pretty well. Andrew Luck to T.Y. with Aaron Jones, Zeke, Shepard, Keenan Allen, Evan Ingram, Samuels, and Giants D. Next lineup, 155, Andrew Luck to T.Y. again with McCaffrey, Wilson, Shepard, Keenan Allen, Kittle, Samuels, and Chargers D. Another Watson to Hopkins stack with Zeke, Wilson Jr., Shepard, Keenan Allen, Cook, Samuels, and Giants D. It's almost like I pretty much almost played like like Keenan Allen, Samuels, Giants D, Shepard, almost Wilson Jr. Like I had those like 3 or 4 guys in almost every lineup. Stuck to a really tight core on Yahoo, but this lineup was Wentz by himself, or Wentz to Golden Tate, with McCaffrey, Samuels, Shepard, Hopkins, Keenan Allen, Cook, and Giants D. This lineup just managed to fall short of the cash line. These lineups, the rest of the lineups I talk about are going to be some of my lineups that didn't do as great and were not able to cash. This was a Ben to Antonio stack with also had Samuels in this one, Jeff Wilson, Shepard, Hilton, had Cook on the other side of that game, the Raiders side. He had 15 points. Todd Gurley and Giants D. Next lineup had Wentz to Golden Tate again, then McCaffrey, Elliott, Shepard, Keenan Allen, Evan Ingram, Samuels, and Chargers D. Another Carson Wentz lineup with McCaffrey, Elliott, Shepard, Tate, Brown, Graham, Samuels, and Giants D. I know Carson Wentz wasn't very popular, I was kind of surprised. He was really cheap on Yahoo. He was only, I think it was $27 on Yahoo. Yeah, it was $27. I thought he was a really good play. Thought he was a little bit underpriced. I know Josh Allen was a little bit cheaper than Wentz, and a lot of people played Josh Allen over Wentz, which definitely was the better play, which worked out well for them. But I did like Wentz a lot at his price tag. It's kind of why I played him in a couple lineups. But this last lineup had Watson to Hopkins with Aaron Jones, Jeff Wilson, Shepard, Keenan Allen, Ebron, Samuels, and Panthers D. So those are my 10 lineups on Yahoo. Next Sunday, we'll talk about the 10 lineups that I play in the $1 Million Baller. Hopefully those 10 lineups do really well. And hopefully I'll see you guys in the contest as well. Like I said, if you want to join, get in that contest. It's going to overlay like crazy. My referral link is down in the description. If you join through my link, it's going to give you like some extra dollars that you should be able to enter into this contest. So it should give you a free entry into the $1 Million Baller if you do use my referral link. But yeah, let's go ahead and look at this showdown slate real quickly for Monday Night Football. Got a game between the Vikings, Seahawks. We'll talk about the player pool in this game. We'll talk about roster construction. Go through it somewhat quickly. So we'll start off at the top with Adam Thielen, who is the most expensive option on this showdown slate. He's 11-8. If you play him in your flex spot, if you go with Thielen in your captain, he is 17-7. Very expensive. Obviously, Thielen is captain worthy, but there are a lot of studs on this showdown slate. We might want to go a little bit cheaper at captain, so that way we can fit in multiple studs into our lineups. If I was to pay up at captain and play one of the expensive captains, it would for sure most likely be Adam Thielen. You could go to Wilson or Cousins for a little bit cheaper. Maybe Cousins for a little bit cheaper than Thielen makes sense, since Cousins is only 10-2. Russell Wilson been balling as well lately. He's been playing really well. I think he is worth paying that price tag for in your captain spot. But maybe let's look for some cheaper captains that we could play. This Doug Baldwin injury is going to be something we have to watch Monday night, if he's able to go or not. If he is able to play, I feel like Doug Baldwin's most likely going to be matched up with Xavier Rhodes, which could be a tough matchup for him. But Baldwin has been getting a lot of targets lately. I know last game he got 4 targets. The game before that, 7 targets, 10 targets, 5 targets. Been getting a decent amount of volume as of late. At $7K, as a cheaper captain option, I think he is worthy. If he misses this game, I expect Tyler Lockett to see a lot of targets. At $8,200, he is for sure in play, especially with Tyler Lockett's upside that he brings to the table. Always makes sense as a captain anytime you can get a guy with a lot of upside. So let's see what we can do if we play Tyler Lockett in our captain spot. I think you can play Lockett in your captain whether Baldwin misses or whether he plays. Even if he plays, still like Lockett. If he misses, that's just a bump to Lockett even more. So playing Lockett at 12-3 should allow us to pay up for at least 1 or 2 studs. We can try and get Cousins to Thielen. Let's see if we can do Cousins to Thielen. That would leave us 52-33. We'll try and talk about some value plays. If Baldwin's out, maybe a guy like David Moore could see some increased targets. Kyle Rudolph isn't the highest ceiling play. Doesn't have a crazy high ceiling, but at $4,800, he's for sure in play as a value option. You obviously have the kickers who you could play, but are obviously not the most appealing value plays. Let's see what we can do with David Moore at $5,200. That would leave us $5,250. I don't think there's really any cheap plays we want to play. Like Jerron Brown hasn't really been getting a ton of targets, even though he did have a big game last Sunday against the 49ers. I don't think he's someone I would want to play unless maybe Doug Baldwin misses. We obviously can't play any of these 6K guys because those are backup quarterbacks. Let's see if we could fit in one more top-tier guy. If we could play maybe, let's just go with the assumption that Doug Baldwin plays. Let's plug him in at 7K. That would leave us enough for one of the kickers if you wanted to do that. I don't love playing kickers, obviously, but sometimes you just got to do it. If there's a lot of studs and you want to fit in those studs, you got to find value. So you could play this lineup right here. If we go under the assumption that Baldwin's going to play and we want to play him as our captain for a little bit cheaper, that should definitely free up more salary so we could get in Thielen to Cousins if you want to do that. If you wanted to not play Thielen Cousins, you could pair Baldwin with Russell Wilson if you wanted to go that route. But just going with Thielen to Cousins leaves us 58-33. If you go with a guy like maybe David Moore, if you want to play Lockett as well, we could try and get Lockett in there. That'd leave us 46-50. Could definitely play David Moore. I then you would have enough for one of the defenses or the kickers. If you wanted to go down to Rudolph, that would get you up to Rashad Penny, who I probably wouldn't play just because his workload, you never know, carries-wise, what he's going to get. The last few games, he's been getting like 5-6 carries a game. He is questionable. If he was to miss, that could open up maybe some more work for like Mike Davis, who is really cheap. Mike Davis down here at $2,600. Should also open up more work for Chris Carson, who's been getting the majority of the work. 13 carries last week, 4 targets, 3 catches, 16 touches, 17 touches the week before that, 18 touches the week before that. So Carson's been getting pretty good work. 7,600. I think I'd rather play like Baldwin and Lockett over him, but Chris Carson definitely in play, even though it's not the best matchup against the Vikings front. But that lineup we built before this one, I think I really like. If you want to play this lineup, you could go maybe to one of the kickers down here. And that'd leave you $1,000, so you could upgrade at a position. If you wanted to upgrade from Lockett, you could get up to Dalvin Cook. If you wanted to upgrade from Cousins, you could go up to Russell Wilson. You could play that lineup right there, pairing Wilson with Baldwin and Lockett. Then you got Thielen, Rudolph, and the kicker. So I think that lineup makes some sense as well. But that's probably it for this Showdown slate. Just wanted to go through this really quickly. This video is already pretty long, so I want to do some quick analysis on this Showdown slate. Good luck to those who are playing this. Hopefully your lineups do well. Hopefully you guys can make some money on this Showdown slate. But yeah, I think that's it for the video. So hopefully you guys did enjoy the video. Hopefully it did help you. If you enjoyed, just make sure you click that like button down below. I would appreciate it. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. And if you do have any questions, if you want to talk about your lineups, feel free to leave any comments down below. Let me know some of the guys you were on that did well, and maybe some guys that did poorly for you. Always like to see your guys' comments. But yeah, guys, good luck tonight on the Showdown slate. We'll see you back on Tuesday with another video. Peace.